Six pack Lapadat. We are back. This is the women's European recap show. Amelia Potter, Matt Gary. I got I got two Brits with me, and let's get it. Let's dive right in here. On the women's side, like we normally do, we'll start with the lowest weight class and we'll work our way up the ranks. And in the 47s, Amelia didn't really have any major battles, and these totals are going to be quite a bit lower than, let's say, if Turbo Tiff, Jessica Espinal, Heather Connors, or anyone like that was in the mix. But what were we looking at here for the 47s?
It was actually a little bit closer than I think that was expected. Obviously with the 47s, a 10 kilo lead is significantly larger than if you saw a 10 kilo lead in like the 84 plus. So they were somewhat separated the whole way, but the Georgian lifters, I don't think came in with quite as big a total was nominated. They didn't have quite as good a day as maybe expected. And Joanne Clark from Ireland had a phenomenal day. And I think she was maybe in nominations behind both Georgians and had a really, really fantastic day. Ended up in silver overall. But it was a pretty clear cut first, second, third at the end of the day with Miriam Sanchez Guterres from Spain. Again, similar to the 59s on the men's side, kicking off the competition with the lightest weight class with the Spanish champion on home soil. So set a
Mm.
good time moving forwards.
Yeah, that's a good first day for Team Spain. When you're the host nation, you want them to do well. You want the crowd to walk away having been pleased. It helps it grow the sport in that nation for sure. And it creates like that energy. If they're doing well and the hometown crowd is entertained and got some positive energy, they're going to bring it to all the sessions. Anything you want to throw in there, Matt, for the 47s, or you want to move into the 52s?
No,
Let's move
sir.
into the
Yep.
52s then. And we had ourselves a bit of a battle here now. Plun Deckers winning the European title. Plun, absolutely sensational squatter. We all know that. 442.5. It's a big total. And Noemi Aliber, whom was a bit of a question mark. Now, Noemi has gone into the 450s. And I don't know if we're ever going to return back into that form or see an improvement upon. She's been dealing with a lot of injuries. However, she wasn't at 100%, but still good enough for 432.5 and taking a silver medal at the European Championships. Matt, what is your impression of the 52s?
Yeah, I mean, admittedly, because we didn't have a horse in the race, I mean, I paid less attention to this session, clearly. So, but yeah, to your point, Ryan, I mean, Plune coming in and doing Plune things, had the opportunity, I think, to kind of, maybe go for a world record there in the squat, but decided not to, and put together a really solid 8 for 9 performance. I mean, the lone miss was her second bench there. But coming in with a 442.5 total, which essentially is a PB total for her at this body weight. She's totaled 450. That was a girl power. She weighed more. So that really doesn't count. But in the context of 52 kilo, this was about as best as we've seen from Plune, and good for her to kind of get the W and get the European Championship. Yeah, and I think with Noemi and I think Amelia might have a little bit more insight. I mean, look, she lifted well. She only missed her final bench, which was just a 2.5 kilo increase from her second to her third. Um, Surprisingly, only went up like 2.5 kilos from her second to third deadlift, but didn't need the third deadlift, to take the silver medal position there. So I mean, as you said, Ryan, we've seen some injuries from her, and so is she going to have this return to form? But still, I mean, coming in second in a European championship is it's not like you're a slouch or anything. So, and then we had Jelena, I believe is how you pronounce her name, from Austria, coming in third place there. And so again, a bit of a gap. If we look at the placings, the podium placings, 10 kilos, and then of course 7.5 kilos separating them. And to Amelia's point, um, you know, those are not insignificant spreads at this body weight. 10 kilos hits different at 47 and 52 than it does at, 83, 93 in some of those classes. So, but admittedly, because we didn't have a horse in the race, I was paying less attention to this class, but that's kind of, how I see it. And again, Plune lifting well and kind of setting herself up, to return to Germany and certainly be in the conversation there.
There's no question Plun is giving me a podium threat at the World Championships, and she could drop the hammer and go all out. Noemi, to your point where you said 10 kilos is quite a bit in the 52s. Noemi's totals drop. We're talking 20 kilos down. Now, I also agree. It's not like she's spinning her wheels, wasting time. She's collecting medals at the international level. So it's not like, yes, show up, grab your silver medal, Europeans. You're still adding to your resume some great achievements here. However, I remember whispers that she might be retiring. This was back when, at a World Tight Championships. I think she finished off podium, and this is somebody who's a multiple time world champion, by the way. 20 kilos down is a significant drop in total. And instead of being pleased with the silver, she's used to being the number one in the world. I got to think that these injuries haven't gone away. Obviously, she's reconsidered any possible retirement talk because here we are. Amelia, did you have a vibe on this or hear any whispers about it, or what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I'm not too sure on the retirement front. I think, she's not, or she was not operating below her top end. I don't think that if she had anything left in the tank, there would be any reason that she wouldn't be pushing Plun. I think the 175 for Plun, was the right call on the day. I don't think necessarily on that day that the her own record was there, but she has time for Germany. In terms of Noemi, though, it's really hard to say. And I know that Matt said she didn't necessarily need that extra 2.5, but Yelena just missed out on her third
Yeah,
pull,
that's
which
right.
is would have pulled her ahead of Noemi on body weight, and her personal best, I believe, is 185. Which if Noemi didn't get that final pull of 2.5 extra, would have been what Yelena would have needed. So even pressure from behind now of Noemi, where I think it's not a necessarily a place she's been before, really, where that she's falling behind and also having to watch behind her. And I think mentally that takes a big toll on somebody who was riding at the top of the game for so long and, perhaps alongside injuries and, you know, all of that playing into it, it's asking the question of, do you have the fight in you to push forward and get back up there? And, I believe that if she decides to, that she could, but that's only a decision that she can make. And that if she has spoken on retirement, there has to be a time for everybody at some point. But, by no means is she beyond her years or aged out or anything. I think it's aside from injuries coming largely maybe from a mental place of can I put the gas down anymore?
I'm moving into the 57s. This was a little bit surprising for me. Now, these ladies ended off having a relatively close battle, only 5 kilos separated them, but it's a little untidy. And both the totals I see in the 57s, I thought they were going to be higher, if I'm completely honest. In the preview show, we had alluded this much that they're full well capable of being over 500 kilos. And as it were, nobody went over 485. Pal winning with a 485, but missing her first two squat attempts. In this one, we had a Brit. Amelia, talk to me about the 57s and what we saw here.
Yeah, so we a bit of a different pile of names. Of course, in terms of GB 57s, as Matt knows, is a highly contested class. We have Bobby Butters, who just competed at Sheffield, Joy Imani, who has competed at Sheffield, previous world champion. Those two have gone back and forth a lot. And in recent years, Adejoke Adeteyo, who competed at Euros. We have Maya da Silva, who I think the last time we saw her internationally was in Malta for Open Worlds. So she took a bit of a hiatus, but she's extremely talented, and it was exciting to see her come back. And Sauvan Pau from France, putting up a really phenomenal day. Maybe the totals weren't necessarily as high as some people anticipated. Maybe that was the battle they had on the day and the giants they faced. We saw some big misses, not necessarily in a case of they weren't strong enough. I think we saw Adejoke put on the world record squat, get it, and then it got overturned by the jury. And I'm sure Matt can give us more details on that in a moment for why that was. But you know, the caliber of lifting in the 57s globally is incredible. So I think the expectations were very high. I think regardless, it was a great battle between the three lifters. But yeah, I think there's more to come. I think maybe all of them didn't have their foot down completely on the pedal for this, but Savan is again still pretty new to the international stage. Maya has taken a bit of hiatus and is coming back, and Adejoke is again a couple years into her international debut alongside giants like Bobby and Joy. So I think it's a case of maybe them finding their feet a little bit as front runners, in Europe in the 57s.
What are your thoughts here? I know Adejoke loading up to try to swap that medal, bronze for silver. Were you handling her for this?
Yes, sir, I was.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So what were
Yep.
your thoughts on this battle?
Yeah, I think Amelia spoke well of this class. I mean, we had Savan, miss the first two squats, and we're all like, man, is she even going to, be able to register a total? But came back and made the third one, and was then able to put together, a gold medal performance, even on a 6 for 9 day, ending at 485. And to your point, Ryan, I think all the totals were just a little bit lower. I'm not sure that we thought any of these ladies were going to hit kind of that 500
Maybe
mark.
okay,
If
maybe
you
I was inflating that in my mind's eye.
but yeah, no, I don't know that we thought any of them were going to hit 500, but I do believe that we thought that they'd be just a stitch higher, perhaps into
Yeah.
the 490s, the low to mid 490s. From the written perspective, yeah, we have a wealth of talent in the 57 kilo classes with three women who are in the top 10 in the world coming out of GB. And so GB's got shooters in the 57s, no doubt. And Adejoke is just, a phenomenal talent. World-class squatter, right there with Bobby Butters, right there with Ja Jacob. Yeah, and look, that was on our card. We potentially had, as high as her going as 190.5. We wanted to make certain after the second attempt. And, to Amelia's point, it was a 2-1 decision in our favor. We walked off the platform, and then unfortunately, as we got in the back, we realized that it had been overturned. I, of course, went to the jury for clarification, and they, unanimously told me that the lift wasn't good, that it was high. I can only speak from what I saw from my side. And again, that's the left hip, which is also partially obscured by the spotters. I have not gone back and watched the live stream to see the other angles, but I've been told that it was close, that it was borderline. And so, yeah, it's just, lifters have to, it is incumbent upon the lifters to execute and to commit to this irrefutable standard and do whatever they can to do to take it out of the referee's hands, especially at these championships where the stakes are so high. But Adejoke was able to regroup. She came back in the bench press, tied her personal best in the bench press with 87.5. And then, of course, we had 207.5 loaded up there on her final deadlift, which I believe would have been a PB for Adejoke in the deadlift in competition. And it just, we weren't able to connect the dots, so to speak, but that would have moved us into silver over Maya of Spain. But that was kind of the way that the story went. And, you see when you look at the results again, there's these gaps between first, second, third, and then, and then kind of a big jump there from third into fourth. So we were securely on the podium, weren't really at risk of losing that. And so, yeah, we were shooting for silver at that point, but it's unfortunate that we didn't have that, extra 3.5 kilos in the beginning, but hats off to Adejoke for being able to stay in the moment and just be a professional and, and be in the conversation there at the very end.
Moving on to the 63s, and Matt, we had two Brits make it onto the podium. Walk me through the 63s and the battle that was, sir.
Yeah, this was really exciting. Once again, whenever we have two lifters who are so tight in a weight class and are vying for podium position, the ethical thing to do is to split the chores. And so my wife, Susie, was able to coach Sabrina Downs, who was nominated a little bit higher than Makeda. Makeda coming in, she's coached by Alex Pearson Jones, again, my cohort, Peach. Makeda, from our perspective, I mean, she had a banner day. I mean, my goodness, 9 for 9, just an extraordinary performance. Peach just cooked up a recipe that was just so dialed in. I mean, she just looked phenomenal. So hats off to her. And of course, you know, my wife, Coach Sabrina there, who was right there as well. I mean, there's very few kilos that separate these ladies, right? There's just the margins are razor thin. Sabrina missed, the only lift that she missed was her third bench, where if you watch the live stream, and again, we're not making excuses, but I know that this was a sentiment that kind of ran through the championships, was that the platform was slippery. And so if you watch her third attempt, both of her feet just like slipped, like completely. As soon as she began to, you know, apply some leg drive, it's like her feet just, you know, like she'd had a rug pulled out from underneath of her. Her legs just kind of shot out. And so I think that wasn't necessarily a bad number. I think that 117.5 is in Sabrina's wheelhouse, but she just, you know, wasn't able to lift it. And so that was the difference there. I mean, she was 5 kilos, you know, she lost 5 kilos there, and Makeda was able, you know, being the lighter lifter, was able to pick her spots and come in silver there. And then, you know, we had Sue from the Netherlands, who clearly, I think even on nominations, if I recall correctly, was kind of a cut above the rest. And so we were kind of assuming that she was going to be in that front runner position, and she was going to be able to, you know, pretty much for the most part run her own race, because she's in the 500 kilo range and significantly above there. And that's kind of how at least the day unfolded from our perspective. I mean, again, neither Sabrina nor Makeda really had to worry about that, you know, fourth place position there. I mean, you can see even the girl from Belgium, even if she'd have made that 10 kilo deadlift at the end, she still would have been behind the other two ladies. But just hats off to the two British ladies who just performed exceptionally well, only missing that one attempt collectively.
Amelia, anything you want to add before we move up? Okay, let's take it into the 69 kilo class. And Mart Schenner of Norway. Previously, we had spoken about how her performances were a little bit hit and miss. This time she hit, and she hit when she needed it most. This is a PR total for her, clinching the European title, and she was under some heavy fire, finishing with 552.5, obviously very respectable total in the 69 kilo class. Amelia, what are your thoughts on the 69s and the battle that was?
69s were great. I think if I remember back to last Euros, where she again had a good showing, there was a pretty good gap between Marta and the, you know, the rest of the podium. But Anderina, who is either just finished being a junior or is in her last year of being a junior, she's 23. Um, she's a powerhouse, and she ended up 5 kilos below Mark Jenner. And it really was a phenomenal battle. Anderina ending up with the deadlift gold with 230 with that final pull. Like I said, landing her just 5 kilos behind. She was heavier than Marta, so she would have had to, you know, put on 7.5 kilos above that for 237 to pull into first, which is a bit of an ask. But, you know, we only really saw, I think, Anderina for the first time internationally, and I could be wrong, in Romania, or one of the first times in Romania Junior Worlds a couple of years ago. And, you know, she's just been PBing her total and getting better and better and better. It's really good to see a healthy Mark, you know, and her putting up a good performance. And then it seemed like it was going to be Anderina pushing Mark the whole time, whilst seeing a kind of three-way battle for podium and bronze with Marie-Jose Tamsman and Georgia Sylvia Burton, who, in honesty, I was a little bit surprised to see come in fourth in the end, because I know that we had pretty big expectations for her coming in, especially with that, you know, big squat that she has. But again, another real young gun who is charging through the weight class at the moment.
Yeah, Matt, what are your thoughts on the 69s?
Yeah, I mean, not a whole lot to add. I mean, I think when you look at Marta Jenner's story and you kind of look at her competition history, she's about a 50% maker there on third squats. And so I mean, she'd hit 200 to 203, I think, in training. Her squats looked phenomenal. They looked outstanding. And I when I saw the 190, I was surprised that they only went up 7.5. But I think that might have been in the back of their mind, like, hey, we typically don't always make our third squat, and we're gonna need it, and so let's play it safe and let's go for the sure thing. And they did, and she hit that 197.5. It was it looked really good, and her lone miss was the third bench. And so, yeah, I mean, Marta, had a really good day, was able to secure the W. From our perspective, Tasman coming in fourth. Yeah, I mean, look, there's a little bit of bitter taste in our mouth. I mean, Tasman is an exceptional competitor, tied a PB on the squat there. You know, to use an expression from one of our other coaches, hindsight is always 2020, but hindsight has never won a gold medal. And so, that, and I'm not saying that to pass the buck. I'm not saying that to to pass blame. I mean, I was working with Will Brown, who has experience with Tasman Campbell, and we were co-coaching her on the day essentially. And so Tasman tied her PB squat. I mean, when she hit the 180, it didn't look as good as we would have liked a second attempt to look. I mean, my knee-jerk reaction was like, hey, let's go up 5 kilos. That would give her a tiny PB. Tasman had expressed how it didn't feel great. Will was pretty adamant about, hey, let's just take the 2.5. And we're kind of waffling back and forth. But I said, hey, look, he's coached her before and he knows her better than I do. So let's go the 2.5. And then, of course, oftentimes, as is the case, when you come out for a third attempt, it's your final opportunity. You really push a lot harder. And she made it look like, damn, she had 2.5 more. So, we're kind of kicking ourselves there for not giving her the 185, but she tied a PB in the squat, tied a PB in the bench. And then it was just a shock to all of us, quite frankly. And I think even Tasman, that her deadlift, kind of didn't show up there on that final attempt. I mean, her PB is 232.5. So that would have tied her personal best. Her 225 moved well. I mean, again, my knee-jerk reaction and usually kind of going with my gut when I look at a second attempt and I'm calling a third number, for me, it's usually go with your first instinct, go with your gut, right? The more that you think about what does a lifter have left in the tank, the more your mind will begin to play tricks on you, and you'll start convincing yourself of things that may not be there. I immediately thought when I saw 225, she has 7.5 kilos instantly. And we put in 235 and then we wound up lowering it. And we were in a situation there with lot number and the way that the meet was unfolding. Could we have taken 2.5 less? Possibly. But at that point, we were like, look, Tasman thought she had 7.5 kilos. She thought it felt good. And we were kind of going for that silver medal position there. And then when she wasn't able, I mean, I don't really think the bar came off the floor. I don't know if she was out of position or it just kind of got away from her, got out in front of her. I mean, we were just surprised. And I know that Tasman was surprised and just disappointed. But I mean, look, she had an 8 for 9 day. It's not that she had a bad day. It's just that the final taste in your mouth when you leave that platform is a miss. And so it hits differently, and obviously when we had a podium positioning pull in our hands, which is her best event, it's going to leave you with a sour taste in your mouth. But she represented herself well. She's a consummate pro. And that's kind of how I see the 69s unfolding. And then, also Ivana Horna, not to, forget about her, seasoned veteran, been in the game for a long time, also has dabbled in weightlifting, or I shouldn't say dabbled, has been successful in weightlifting. She was kind of in that 6th position there coming in at 520. So that's how the 69s unfolded from my perspective.
Moving into the 76s, and we had a battle. Clara Perrault, Nico's sister, and Laura Martelin, both of France, battling right to the very end. Clara having to pull a big 240 kilo final deadlift to clinch the European gold medal. I'm going to be honest. So this was a good scrap between these two ladies from France. I'm actually a stitch surprised Laura's total was 567.5. She's done heavier in the past. And when I watch her in training, I don't know if she cuts a lot of weight or what's going on there, but I always peg her for higher. I've seen her as much as, and this is in the gym, and the lifts were, I don't know if they would have passed on the platform, but I've seen her go as high as on an SBD day as 590 in training. Now, doesn't always translate, I got you. But just in terms of her top end strength, and this was probably about a year ago or more that I've seen this from her. She's a little bit like Coco in the respect that she's got potential. She just hasn't pulled it all together yet on the day. But she's going to need to if you got someone like Clara in your weight class. Clara, trained by the strength guys, through and through, a veteran of the game despite her age, junior world champ, been lifting in the open for years, even as a junior. And Clara taking this title here. Amelia, your thoughts on the 76s?
This was a great fight. And, not to forget Stefanikova from Iceland as well, who ended up just 4 kilos below them with a squat record, European squat record with 211. It was a great fight. It really was. And Clara, as you said, has been in the Open and Juniors for quite a few years now. More recently, went up from 69. So weighed in at like 74. So still a little bit of room there in terms of the weight class. But yeah, Clara had a great day, and I say this as often as I commentate on her, which is over the last few years, obviously a fair amount with the amount that we see her at competition. There are very few lifters that I will put my confidence and faith in, saying, if there is a tough lift coming up and they need to grind, this is someone who is going to get through it. And Clara is one of those people that she can really really grind. And I know Panna gets the crown for that, but I think Clara contests it. She's got a lot of grit. And Laura, I spoke to her a little bit afterwards. She said kind of it is what it is. She didn't have the day that she, wanted. She also, like Rico, actually cramped during deadlifts, and that lost her some kilos. But still with missing out kilos, being able to just lose on body weight, I think is telling that, when she does have that performance that lets us see what she is capable of, that she does in training, like that 590, it's going to be quite the performance. Clara's continuing to go up, but it was great to see Lucy Stefanikova from Iceland as well have a great day. I think she's another athlete that sometimes doesn't always have the day she wants. She had a phenomenal squat session, and she definitely was in the race the whole time. It wasn't a case of Clara versus Laura. It was definitely a three-person race. And a special shout out for Mara Hames from Germany, who went back and forth with Lucy for that squat record. They both got it on their second, both missed it again on their third. And Temi from Great Britain, who had a great day. It was her first year as a masters, and I think bar one attempt, every record, every attempt was either European or a world, and one record broken.
And to your point about Lucy, if she hit that third squat, she'd be winning.
Yeah.
She would be the European champ right now. Like, she was well in the hunt. Yeah, for sure. Matt, your thoughts on the 76s?
Yeah, I think you all nailed it. If Lucy had made that, and it was, yeah, I mean, it was 216 kilos, so she'd had another 5, and that would have changed, presumably what the podium and the attempts would have looked like and all that sort of thing. Fair I just enough. Want to no, but I want to piggyback on what Amelia said. I mean, Clara Perot is I'm just a huge fan of both her and her brother Nicholas. Really cool to see the two of them lifting in the same session, because right. So it's really brother and sister getting the opportunity to share the platform together on such a huge stage. So just really cool. And again, they're strength guys people, and the strength guys and Jason Tremblay are family to me. And so I feel like by extension, they're almost family to me. And Clara, my goodness, man, what I just love her. She's such a phenomenal competitor. She's unbelievable. Fun fact, go to her open powerlifting and just look at the totals. And like the last 6 or 7 times, her total has gone up every single time. She's had one minor blip on the radar there, but otherwise she'd have like 8 or 9 performances where the total just keeps ascending. And like I said, like her brother, it is like her to make 9 lifts. I expect her to make 9 attempts. It's like she's the global or European version of like a Celine Crum on our side. She just doesn't miss. I mean, she's just incredible. And so you can't leave the door open for her to have that opportunity, because she's such a good deadlifter on the final pull. And again, as Amelia said, she can grind. And so she just doesn't miss. She's just extraordinary. So I just love her and was happy to congratulate her after the meet. Just an awesome performance from her. And of course, again, just finally, from our perspective, Temi, just, the second time that she's competed, I think, well, third time that she's competed at this weight class, because she had to qualify for British Nationals, of course, and just a signature performance from her, where she is now approaching the numbers that she hit when she was an 84 kilo lifter. And so she was, my wife Susie was able to coach Temi, and she just went out and executed like a pro, and just a phenomenal performance. And again, as Amelia said, all of her third attempts there were records, and that was exciting to see, and just a phenomenal performance from Temi. So really happy to see her execute so well on this stage at this body weight, and then push into the numbers that she was hitting when she was 84. So those numbers at 84 are soon to be old news for her.
Celine the Machine getting a shout out on a European recap show.
Yeah.
God bless. All right, moving into the 84s and Team Britain collecting another title, and not a bad time to also say Britain finishing second in the nations. If we look at the nations, France, obviously the French women, almost legendary status at this point. They'd be very difficult to beat at the European Championship, but Britain coming in second, with Netherlands coming in third, and the host nation Spain coming in fourth. Matt, were you coaching Melina to this title win?
Yes, I was. Yes, sir.
Walk me through this, sir.
Yeah, she had a really good day. And I kind of liken Melina to the same quality and fabric of human being as Nanzo. I mean, it's you want to talk about a joy to be around. I absolutely love Melina. I cannot say enough nice things about her. What a just, I mean, if you have a problem with Melina or you can't get down with Melina, there's something wrong with you. I mean, this person, she exudes joy and positivity. You crave being in her presence. She is a ball of sunshine and a really strong 84 and a damn good competitor. And her lone miss came on her final squat, which would have tied a PB. And she didn't meet the standard on depth. And I think she knew that, it was a stitch high, but she stayed in the moment. She didn't sulk about it. She came out and hit 3 benches to the tune of essentially tying her bench PB just minus a chip. And then she was able to, she essentially had it wrapped up there on her second deadlift and the third deadlift. I mean, she didn't even need to come out and take it. So she's just like, look, just put whatever you want on the bar. But also, look, she was in position there to potentially hit a PB in the deadlift and kind of push it. But my understanding coming from her background is that she's sustained some injuries, and those injuries have come in the deadlift. So she was like, look, I'd rather not empty the tank, so to speak. She's also going to be representing Team GB at Worlds. So she didn't have to empty the tank on her deadlift. She was able to hold back. Clearly at Worlds, that'll be a different story. We'll put our foot on the gas a little bit more. I think she's got something to work on there in the squat, tighten up that depth a little bit, and we can see a bigger total out of Melina. But just an absolute joy to be around, a joy to coach. Just so happy for her. She secured the 12 team points for us, which were huge there at the end, because we were, as you said, Ryan, kind of doing battle with, trying to sneak up on France and close the door on Netherlands. Also, to mention Allison O'Reilly, really like Allison. She's from Ireland. She had a really good competition as well. She was really kind of in the mix there. I mean, when we missed our third squat, she made her third. She had 7.5 kilo lead on us, and then she's a big bencher as well. So it was really tight there. I mean, that was a tight competition. And then of course we had in those final third and fourth positions, the fight for the podium there. We had Kristen Thorstadter from Iceland fighting it out with Katja from Denmark. And kind of both of them landing on the same total there. But, Denmark being able to pull after Iceland and secure that position with body weight is kind of how that unfolded. But that's kind of how I saw the 84s, and perhaps Amelia's got some extra light to shed on the moment.
Yeah, so I mean, I think as well, and Melina being pushed a little bit more by Ali than expected. Ali had a phenomenal day, and I think she kind of put herself in a box a little bit as, I'm a bencher, and that's what I'm good at. And it's not, she's a well-rounded athlete, especially now. She walked away with squat gold, which I think she was more surprised about than anything. But she had an incredible day, and she really pushed Melina, who is a formidable opponent. And as you said, absolutely right. She is a delight. She is pure sunshine. And it was a really great fight to see Melina get a little bit more push than expected, for Ali to have, that performance after a good while of, I think, dealing with some injuries and putting it together and having a great day, ending on 5:37.5. And then, you know, kind of similar to what you said, Matt, the two Scandi lifters, Jorgensen and Thorhusdottir, fighting out there. Made for a really good watch in terms of battling for the podium. Christian just weighing in at 84 on the dot, so never had that advantage. Even, having to pull after catcher made it really tough for Team Iceland. But it was a great fight. And like I said, Melina very well deserved it. She's, only a couple years out of the juniors. So usually there's Siana and Erlov in the 84, similar to our 57s, a really competitive class in GB. Erlov been out with injuries for a while. That, it's good to see Melina get love at the international platform as an open. She did it plenty as a junior, but because she is, up there and as strong as the rest of our 84s as well. So it was a great class to watch.
Yeah, I just want to say one final thing, just from the mental perspective, and of course, Amelia knows all about this being in her line of work. As competitors, when you miss a lift, and particularly you miss a lift on, it's not on strength. You miss it because of not meeting the standard, or there's an execution issue, and it's early on in the day. You usually, you can do one of two things. Because momentum in a powerlifting meet builds, and it builds positively or it builds negatively. And so Melina, to her credit, didn't sulk, didn't complain. I mean, didn't fret over this miss, and was able to then go 6 for 6 and finish out the competition, in style and in top form there. Whereas, the opposite has been true, as we've seen from other competitors, where they miss and they just harp on that, and then the day begins to get away from them. And so there's a lot to be said for having the mental fortitude to be able to compartmentalize that and say, you know what, we didn't get the result we wanted in the squat, but I now have 2 more disciplines to compete in, and I still have 6 attempts left. And so just hats off again to Melina for being able to do that, and being able to be just a consummate pro and professional, compartmentalize that, put it in its proper place, but then saying, hey, look, I'm going to finish the day. And then one final thing, you're absolutely right, Amelia. I think Ali deserves more love here. She really did have a good day. I don't exactly recall. I mean, that third bench that she missed, I mean, we all thought in the back, I mean, she hit the second one pretty comfortably, I think. I was surprised that she
Yeah,
missed her third bench. And had she made that, look at the scorecard. That would have been a much
Wow.
different story. We would have had to adjust the attempts significantly, and we would have been really trying to fend her off even harder there at the end.
And she
So
still
yeah,
just,
was pulling at the end for the win. Like she was rated. She was
yeah,
in that hunt.
yeah,
She
yeah.
was scrappy.
it was right there, man.
She said to me afterwards, she said, note for self, if the second feels kind of hard, take the smaller jump. I think in the moment she was kind of wanting those extra kilos. And like you said, the second looked good, but I think, you know, she went what she wanted instead of maybe what she had in the moment, because she kind of put her hands up afterwards and was like, I think probably the safer bet was probably better there.
Yeah.
All right, talking about the 84 pluses here. History was made. Now this is crazy. On a day that Sunita didn't hit a single third attempt, not a single third attempt was made by Sunita. She totaled still 735.5. And for those who don't know the significance of this, not only is that an IPF record, 135 or 735.5, but that is the biggest total in powerlifting history, tested or untested. She pulled a Jesus Oliveras. What Jesus did at the first Sheffield, Sunita did at this European Championships. The reason why it doesn't feel quite the same, well, there's probably a couple. First off, this is Euros and not Sheffield. Okay, you do this at Sheffield, all eyeballs are watching. And the second part is, yeah, she didn't hit a single third attempt, whereas Jesus didn't miss a single attempt at Sheffield. It was literally the perfect 9 for 9. But what does that tell you? That on a day when she didn't have a single third attempt to register towards her total, she had the biggest total we have ever seen in powerlifting. Sunita is the greatest 84 plus we have ever seen She's the strongest woman the sport has ever seen. The gift of powerlifting right now, coming out of Belgium, of all nations. This isn't Belgium isn't exactly a nation with like a history of dominance in powerlifting, to say the least. And they got Sunita, 735.5. And another thing I like about Sunita, I don't give a shit less if it's Euros or not. She's dropping that hammer. I don't give a shit less. She shows up at the World Championships and Sheffield's coming around again. She's going to drop it again. You could save some kilos, even if she's got to spread it on the opposition. She's loading up the kilos on that total if she can. She's going to swing. Um, I don't know. I don't even know how to fully digest or where the future is for Sunita when she's 100%. Another milestone, obviously, being the first woman ever to squat 700 pounds and opting not to come out for a third. And I'm totally fine with that. You don't need to come out for your third because you still ended up with the biggest total and the biggest performance we've ever seen in powerlifting, period. Tested or untested. What are we doing here? She's in an Uber first in Malta. This class was uber competitive. Uber competitive. Is Sunita starting to run away with this now, Amelia?
It's tough. You know, like you said, she didn't even go 9 for 9. She won best lifter with that. She got the biggest ever total, scored 700 pounds. It's hard really to bet against her. On the same note, you know, this weight class is ever growing. I think she has a good lead. She has a great lead, you know, and right now, I think at best people are at like just passing her arm's reach away. Um, do I think that she will forever be untouchable? I think that's harder to say because you know, we see people like Brittany Schlater from Canada getting close to that 300 kilo squat as well, you know, and I think people are overlooking, you know, people like Brittany, or we got Lucy and Nat from Australia who are deadlifting, you know, 280 and up more regularly as well. Right
She's
now,
crazy.
yeah,
Nat is absolutely, it's insane her deadlift. But like, obviously, neither here nor there. But yeah, you're right.
it's absolutely nuts. And you know, it's a phenomenal weight class. Right now, Sunita is you know, the person to beat, and maybe that's a tough gig for anybody to hit for a couple of years. Um, but I'm not gonna count anyone out. But right now, putting up a total like that with kilos to spare, with attempts not made, it's you know the crown's on her head, and it's pretty cemented there as it stands, I think.
Matt, you've been around powerlifting for a long time. I know you love the sport. You see a lady like this coming into her own. What are your thoughts on Sunita?
Yeah, so I mean everything that Amelia said, and it seems like a generational talent. I mean, we're talking about somebody here who took, like you said, Ryan, she only took 8 attempts, so the third squat she passed, and so she missed her final bench. Or I'm sorry, actually, let me correct myself. She did not take her final deadlift. She came out and kind of waved to the crowd and shook the hands of the referees. So she didn't take that. Respectfully, I don't think she had 275 after how the 265 looked. But again, to her credit, she didn't take those final 2 attempts and still hit the biggest total we've ever seen. So it's extraordinary. So, when she does take all 9 attempts, which presumably she will do in Germany, and puts her foot on the gas and gets, and yeah, I see Amelia kind of nodding her. Maybe she'll be in a position, we don't know. Maybe she'll be in a position after that second deadlift where she's got it in the bag and she can come out and do the same thing. But that story, will be told in a few months' time. And we've got, Brittany Schlater, who's no slouch herself. But when you have somebody who is this supreme squatter, and then, oh, by the way, she's, top 10 in the deadlift as well, she can bookend that performance with 2 huge lifts. And she'll always have that chip to play with in the squat as well. So it's just, yeah, I mean, for a female to hit 700 pounds in the squat and then to, pass on the third one, I mean, I think she's, going to be floating in the neighborhood of putting that extra red on the bar like she did at Sheffield and soon be squatting that. I mean, she's incredible. And I think if she takes all 9 attempts and goes 9 for 9, what are we talking about? We're talking about mid to high 740s, potentially hitting 750. but I would say, in the mid 740 range. And oh, by the way, her GL points were 124 GL points, which is just 10 more than Marta Jenner from Norway. And that is a galaxy way. Okay, that's not just beating somebody by the slimmest of margin on GL points. She's in another galaxy. So she's far, far away. So she had an incredible performance, even only taking as few attempts as she did. And then, of course, I just want to speak to Quinn from Great Britain. Just first time on a national team, again, coached by Peach. Peach had a lot of lifters in his stable on this team. So credit to him as a coach for his acumen and filling up this team with a lot of his own lifters. I mean, she just had an extraordinary performance, going 9 for 9, hitting PBs in every discipline, and ending the day with a perfect attempt call at 268 there to get the European record in the deadlift. And it was just bang on attempt selection. And just again, huge gap between Sonita and Aquin. But then again, as we talked about, is it Amelia? Did I pronounce that correct? Mergier, her first name, forgive me.
Emily,
yeah. So Emily Mergier has been steadily decreasing in body weight, and we talked about that on the preview show, and we figured that her total would be reflected in that. So, I mean, she had a good day as well in terms of representing herself well, also going 9 for 9 and coming in third. Obviously she's been known previously when she was heavier, had the world record in the bench press, but obviously at a lighter body weight now, not quite pressing what she was used to be able to press, but still having a good day, representing herself well, going 9 for 9. And so that's kind of how the podium unfolded. We just see these huge gaps between 1 and 2, and then of course another huge gap between 2 and 3, and even 3 and 4. So I think the podium fleshed out the way that we thought it would, the way that we suspected, the way that we predicted on the preview show. So again, just really proud of Quinn coming into her first internationals, representing herself so well, and then being able to finish on a high note there with that European deadlift record.
Just for a little perspective, for the longest time, Bonica Brown of USA was the greatest 84 plus of all time, racking up world title after world title, world games, in and out of equipment, etc. Sonita is 55 kilos above Bonica's best total of all time. 55. That's not even, I mean, that's not at all competitive. You take prime versus prime, them against each other. That's not at all close. Sunita is literally so far ahead of everybody in history. And you literally, Sunita can raise her hand and say, you do whatever you want in terms of PEDs, I'll still beat you. Every woman that ever lived. Can you imagine saying that? Any woman that's ever lived and touched a barbell, do whatever you want. I'll let you. I'll spot you that. I'll beat you. It's incredible the talent that she is. That Sunita is right now.
You use the term, Ryan. You use the terminology with Jesus all the time about being the apex predator, right? She is the apex predator on the women's side, undoubtedly, 100%. Yeah, full stop.
You got to be careful. You go in there talking about a battle, and oftentimes that battle turns into a hunt, and that's what happens when you're going against an apex predator. Oh, love, you thought this was a fight? No. I'm hunting. You're food. Understand where you are on the food chain. Okay, be careful. It's I want to see what Sunita does at the World Championships because she is who she is. It doesn't matter if it's close or not. She's going all out. She's going to push her chips to the middle. And she loaded what she did at Sheffield because she thought she had it in her. And what if she does at some point? I don't know where she's going to end up in terms of her total. She came on the podcast and she didn't say like in the immediate future, but she's like, why not 800? Now we get excited. We talk hyperbolic. I know we're a long ways away from 800 kilos. I just love the fact that the strongest woman that ever lived does speak like this anyways. Just says whatever. Because if it's not Sunita, someone's going to come around and do it. Yes, they will. Sunita put 55 kilos on Bonica. 55 kilo spread. Somebody's listening to this podcast and is going to put 55 kilos over Sunita at some point. This is all happening at some point. Sunita's not wrong. 800 is going to fall. It's just a matter of time. So, anyways, sorry, Amelia, you look like you were going to say something there.
No, I was just thinking as well with PA Nats next week, and I believe Vanika making a comeback in that. Oh, it'll be interesting to see in Germany should she make it there. What that face-off looks like now that Vanika isn't the apex predator, and not just Sunita, but like you said, there are a lot of girls in that pack that are hungry and looking to feed.
Well, Alexis Jones, who stepped away for a minute there, she's put up 721 back when she was still with the USAPL. And, let's say Alexis gets on track. I'm not entirely sure what's going on with Alexis, but she's young. And for her to go from 721 into the 730s, obviously totally conceivable. That's not a crazy ask. She can make it. There are ladies out there in Brit, the aforementioned. There are ladies out there that they could cover the spread and start catching up. Put it this way, they'll make Sunita have to be honest. They'll make Sunita for a long time. We were talking about Jesus, like nobody can make Jesus honest. He can go in there and just pass on all of his thirds and just kind of have an easy day and cruise control to the win. There are ladies in the 84 plus that can keep her honest and be like, excuse me, you need to hit your lifts. You cannot just miss all your thirds or not come out for your third dead, not come out for your third squat and still win. There are ladies in the world that will put that kind of pressure on her. That's what you need. The 84 pluses as a whole are all leveling up. I don't know. It's a tough ask. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that, Ryan, to exactly what you said, which I think it's thrilling to see, right? Because we have these weight classes that are at the extremes. On the men's side, it's the 59 and the 120 plus, and on the women's side, it's 47 and 84 plus. And they clearly, just because they are at the extremes, the end of the spectrum, if you will, and talking about all the data that you presented with Rory and outliers with Eric Helms and all that kind of talk, you just matter of factly don't have the depth of talent at the extremes that you do in the other weight classes. So when we have these classes that are now beginning to see an influx of talent globally, it is really, to me, it's thrilling. It makes for must-watch TV. And yes, Sonita, a cut above the rest, clearly in her own kind of world, if you will. Brittany Schlater, clearly in that number 2 position behind Sonita, has to keep Sunita honest. But I'm telling you that, again, fast forwarding to Germany, just for a minute, Australia is going to be sending 2 84 pluses, to my knowledge, in Lucienne and in Natalie Lalai, and then New Zealand as well, right? With Jewel Tossi, and I'm trying to remember, forgive me, who the other, I think it's Dina is her last name. We've got a depth of talent, and then Bonica presumably back in the mix, fighting for that, potentially bronze medal position. I mean, it'll be thrilling. I think it's going to be really exciting, and I'm just happy to see it at these other weight classes where normally you're like, kind of ho hum. We've got one person who's going to run away with it. It just makes it more exciting. It just makes we crave these head-to-head battles, whether it be for the first spot or just making it onto the podium. And I think clearly we're going to see that in Germany, where you're going to have potentially 4 or 5 women there who are really, really duking it out, and some big deadlifters coming in, for that final spot on the podium, presumably. I just, again, I'm excited about it.
Dude, Natalie from Australia, Lalai, it is crazy what she's doing with the deadlift. She's doing to the deadlift what Sonita's doing to the squat. And when they accidentally loaded 322 and a half for her, and she took it up to her knees, and she had no idea. Like, she took 322 and a half to her knees. It's crazy. I don't even know what to tell you. She is a deadlift demon, and I can't wait to see what she does at the World Championships. The freaking 84 pluses are all leveling up at an astounding rate. An astounding rate. To the tune of the previous go to that weight class, it'll take the day of her life to get onto the podium. That's crazy. That's crazy to say. We'll see in a few short weeks. Anything else we should say in terms of the women's before we wrap this up? I think
Yes,
we did
just
a pretty good job there. Sorry, go
please,
ahead, Matt.
please, Amelia, go ahead, Amelia, please.
I was gonna say if you wanted to say the top three best lifters, Ryan, from the women's.
Yeah, go ahead. I
Oh,
got it pulled up too, but I won't bury your.
no, I was
You're
handing
pitching. You're setting me up. Yeah, yeah. So thank you. Give me, you're here for the assist. You're gonna alley oop me. Thank you. So Nita, to Matt's point, huge performance. 124 on the GL points, 10 points ahead of Mark Jenner, who came in second, and then Pal Sylvain from France, who came in third for the best lifters. And yeah, like previously mentioned, Team France. What can you say on the women's side? They're dominant, super strong, taking the gold overall. Britain, great showing with second, Netherlands, and followed by the host nation of Spain and Italy wrapping up the top five. At the World Championships, though, I'm going to be interested in seeing what happens. What do you guys think? For the World Championships, are the other European nations starting to catch up to Team France? Because Italy's going to look a lot different, aren't they, Matt? We have Serenaldi, Chiara, Corolagara. I mean, Italy's heavy hitters weren't at these Euros, and Italy's strong everywhere now.
Yeah, they've got three ladies there that are, I mean, clearly in Corolla. I mean, I don't need to tell you her resume. We've got three women on their side who are, look, unless Hell freezes over, they're going to be making the podium and scoring some major points for Team Italy. So yeah, they're going to be in the mix. And to Team GB's credit, we're going to have, we're gonna bring some more athletes as well, to the tune of Bobby Butters and Joy Namani and Ziana Azariah. And so we've got some heavy hitters of our own who can score more points for us as well. And so yeah, I mean it's going to be fun. I mean, not to yeah, I mean that's a whole nother preview show, which
Yeah,
we'll get to it. but yeah, these other countries are going to bring out their all stars, presumably for the World Championships. But that's not to diminish Euros, like we said. And the final thing I want to say is what a tremendous honor it was to coach at this championships. As I said at the start of the men's preview show, I believe this, to me, of the regional championships globally, this is the premier
oh yeah, for sure.
without question. And like I said, it is like a world championships light, minus a few countries, like having heavy hitters from the United States, New Zealand, Canada, etc. That's what it feels like to me. And so, what a tremendous honor to coach at this championships. It was on my bucket list for the longest time, was to be able to come over here, to come to Europe and to coach at this championships. I didn't think this was how it was going to be or the way that I would get there, but God bless. I'm thankful for the opportunity. No, I'm being serious. I'm thankful for the opportunity, and what a blast it was. And so it's a tremendous championships. I've been glued to it for a long time, and for me to be over there and to be able to coach alongside my fellow cohorts there on Team GB was just a tremendous honor, which I'm very thankful for.
You already got an amazing resume in terms of head coach, but now you have a European title to your name on the men's side. Like it's your resume. People are gonna be like, what the heck? Like you for sure in terms of your bucket list, 100%. But your resume is extremely thorough. You got obviously world titles as well on your resume, but now you have European as well, man. I mean, you're rounding it out, and yeah, good showing on yourself. I'm sure Great Britain's very happy with the performances they got, and then we're gonna see what you could do with Team GB at the World Championships. You got some big hitters, you got some heavy hitters, and it gets shaken up. And I 100% agree with you. Euros is a special championship. Look, we got the greatest performance we've ever seen on the women's side happen at Euros, and the returning Sheffield champion in Shell on the men's side. I mean, how can you not? You don't want to miss these kind of performances. But anyways, all right, that'll do it. Thank you everybody for listening. As per usual, please do give us high ratings and subscribe. And until next time, six pack Lapadat, six up, and we are out.